Hello everyone, welcome to Learn Wireless Technology. In the previous tutorial, we discussed about the EUTRAN part of the LTE architecture. Now in this tutorial, we will discuss the core network part of the LTE architecture. Here also we will talk about different network elements in the EPS architecture and the interfaces between them. So let's start. This is the architecture of EPC. The interface between EUTRAN and EPC and between different nodes within the EPC are shown here. The signaling path is denoted by dotted lines and user data path is denoted by solid lines. So EPC is the core network of LTE system. It is completely a packet switch network and no circuit switch domain is present. It was decided for the LTE network to have a flat architecture so that there would be fewer network elements and the traffic can be handled efficiently with low cost. And Internet protocol is used for transport of all services. The user plane for user data and control plane for signaling are separated to make the scaling independent. Now let's discuss in more detail about the network elements and interfaces of the LTE core network. MME or Mobility Management Entity. MME, as we know, is a control plane entity. It deals with control plane functionalities to handle the signaling procedures related to mobility and security to provide EUTRAN access. Let's look at the list of functions supported by the MME. NAS signaling and security. These are the major and important functions that MME is responsible for. NAS signaling, as we know, are the messages exchanged between UE and MME via eNode B. The signaling procedures such as attach process, bearer establishment, PDN connection establishment, service request, tracking area update, etc. are examples of NAS signaling that happens between UE and MME. Security procedures are the methods of performing mutual authentication between UE and the network and establishing a secure connection between them. MME is responsible for this process of authentication and security context establishment for ensuring secure transferring of data. Tracking area list management. A tracking area is an area that comes under an MME. One MME can serve several tracking areas. UE's location is known to the network with the help of a tracking area identity. When UE connects to network, MME allocates a list of tracking areas to the UE. This list is managed by MME. UE is supposed to send a tracking area update request when it moves to a different tracking area. Also, when UE is in idle state but registered to network, it is supposed to perform periodic tracking area update. These updates are necessary for MME to manage and keep updating the UE's location in its database. MME is responsible to select a serving and PDN gateway to serve a UE. Selection of serving and PDN gateway is necessary to establish a default bearer between the UE and network during the attach process. MME also selects an SGSN, which is a core network node of legacy circuit switch network such as 2G and 3G. SGSN is selected by MME to handle the extended service requests for CSFB procedure and during the interrat handover procedure when UE moves to 2G or 3G network due to poor 4G coverage. Roaming and authentication. MME handles the roaming procedure when UE leaves the home PLMN and moves to a visitor PLMN. For authentication, MME communicates with HSS to request for necessary information required for authenticating a UE. The signaling process to establish a dedicated bearer for UE is done by MME. Dedicated bearer is established specially during a VoLTE call. MME is also responsible to manage the EPS bearers. MME also helps in providing access to 3GPP2 networks such as CDMA and eVideo. CDMA and eVideo are the 2G and 3G technologies which are deployed in few countries. For example, in USA, Verizon operators 2G and 3G network is based on CDMA and eVideo technology. MME provides access to these networks when UE performs a CSFB call or when UE performs interrat handover. It supports CS fallback functionality. We discussed before how user falls back to UTRAN or GRAN network, that is 3G or 2G network, while in EUTRAN or 4G network, which allows the call to transfer towards circuit switch domain. MME supports interworking with 3GPP CS functions, handover functions, SRVCC. Now, SRVCC is also a voice handover functionality where user will be in a VoLTE call, and if it moves to an area with poor 4G coverage, then it will hand over to circuit switch network without dropping the voice call. SRVCC stands for Single Radio Voice Call Continuity. So these are all the functions supported by MME. Next is the serving gateway. Serving gateway along with the PDN gateway deals with the user plane to transport the user data traffic between UE and external network. It is the point of interconnection between the radio access network and core network. There is only one serving gateway at any given point for each UE that is associated with EPS. Let's go through the list of functions supported by the serving gateway. Packet routing and forwarding. The serving gateway routes the downlink packets from PDN gateway to eNode B, which are then forwarded to UV over the radio network. The uplink packets transmitted by the UV is forwarded to serving gateway by the eNode B, and the serving gateway routes these uplink packets to PDN gateway. Serving gateway acts as a local mobility anchor point for the inter-eNode B handover. When a handover process is initiated, the eNode B that serves the UV is changed. Serving gateway has the responsibility to monitor the handover and release the connection with the serving eNode B and route the incoming packets to the target eNode B, which will be the new serving eNode B after handover is completed. Serving gateway also monitors the mobility procedures between different 3GPP rats. In case of inter-rat handover from 4G to 3G, UV switches from the eNode B of eUtran to Node B of UTran. Hence, the serving gateway will have to establish a connection with the core network of UTran, that is SGSN, and the incoming packets can be forwarded to SGSN. Now, when inter-eNode B handover takes place, the data path is switched from source eNode B to target eNode B. Before switching the path, the serving gateway is supposed to send an end marker to source eNode B so that it indicates the source eNode B that it won't receive any further downlink packets and it can release the UV context. Thereafter, the serving gateway will forward the downlink packets towards target eNode B. Similarly, for inter-rat handover, the end marker is sent to SGSN or RNC. When a UV is in ECM idle state, the serving gateway buffers the downlink data packets until the UV moves to ECM connected state. Serving gateway also performs the accounting functionality. It collects and reports the accounting information, that is, the amount of data transmitted in uplink and downlink direction per UV per PDN connection. Next is the PDN gateway. PDN gateway connects to the external packet data network via SGi interface. It is the point of interconnection between EPC and external network. If UV is accessing multiple packet data network, then there may be more than one PDN gateway for that UV. For example, if UV is connected to internet to access internet and IMS PDN for VoLTE calling, then UV will have two PDN gateways. Let's discuss the list of functions supported by PDN gateway. PDN gateway is responsible for managing and allocating IP address. During the attach procedure or PDN connectivity procedure, UV requests for a connection to the PDN network to establish a data session for accessing internet or transferring user data. The PDN gateway responds to the PDN connection request and allocates an IP address to the UV. PDN gateway supports packet filtering and screening. It filters out the data packets by inspecting each packet based on various criteria and routes them to the data path meant for that user. PDN gateway also supports in uplink and downlink service level charging. Based on the services that UV is subscribed to and the uplink and downlink traffic transferred for a particular service, UV is charged and reported by PDN gateway. During handover, if serving gateway is changed, then PDN gateway sends an end marker to the source serving gateway to notify that no further downlink packets will be transferred for that UV. The remaining packets will be transferred via target serving gateway to that UV after handover is completed. PDN Gateway is also responsible for accounting per UV per bearer. It collects and reports the amount of uplink and downlink data volume per EPS bearer sent to serving gateway or received from serving gateway. Next is the HSS or Home Subscriber Server. HSS is a master database that contains user-related and subscription-related information to support the network entities for handling calls and sessions. A home network may contain one or more HSS, depending on the number of mobile subscribers, capacity of the HSS equipment, whether it is able to handle more number of users or subscribers. It also depends on how the network is organized. The main functions of HSS includes support in mobility management, routing and roaming procedures, call and data session setup, user authentication, and access authorization. During mobility, when UV moves to a new tracking area or different MME, then its location is updated in the HSS. For a UV to attach to a network, it first needs to be authenticated. In LTE, the authentication takes place at both ends. The network authenticates the UV and UV authenticates the network as well. When the attach request reaches MME, MME will request for authentication vectors from HSS over the S6a interface using diameter protocol. The request message to HSS will contain the UV's identity related information. The authentication vectors are nothing but a set of parameters such as random values, authentication token, etc., which are used by MME and UV for mutual authentication. HSS also provides encryption and ciphering keys which will be used for security context activation at access and non-access stratum. HSS holds the user-related information such as user identification, user security, user profile, the services it is subscribed to, etc. Now let's go through the different interfaces between the network elements in EPC. Let's start with S10 interface. It is the interface between two MMEs. It is used to support user information transfer between MMEs and also in MME relocation. It can be used during intra-PLMN or inter-PLMN handover. The signaling over S10 interface is based on GTPC version 2 protocol. Next is the S11 interface. It is an interface between MME and serving gateway. It is used to support mobility and bearer management between the MME and serving gateway. MME communicates with serving gateway over this interface during bearer establishment, modification, and release. Similar to S10 interface, the signaling over S11 interface is also based on GTPC version 2 protocol. Next is the S6a interface. It is an interface between MME and HSS. It is used to exchange data related to the location of the UV and the management of the subscriber. For mutual authentication, upon request from MME, the HSS sends useful parameters and information to MME necessary for authentication. The signaling on this interface uses diameter protocol. This protocol supports transferring of subscription and authentication data for authenticating and authorizing user access to the evolved system between MME and HSS. S5 S8 interface. It is an interface between serving gateway and PDN gateway. It supports functions for packet data services towards end users. It provides user plane tunneling and tunnel management between serving gateway and PDN gateway. It is used for serving gateway relocation due to UV mobility. The signaling over this interface is based on GTP or proxy mobile IP. S5 interface is used when the UV is connected to home network or HPLMN, and S8 interface is used when the user is connected to roaming network or VPLMN. So S8 is the inter-PLMN variant of S5. The last interface we have is the SGi interface. It is a reference point between the PDN gateway and a packet data network. Packet data network can be an external public or private packet data network of operator or an IMS network for provisioning of IMS services. So with this we come to the end of this tutorial. I hope you understood both the EUTRAN and EPC architecture of the LTE network, along with the functions of different network elements and the interfaces between them. Thanks for watching.